So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've been working all day doing some shims and stuff for a gearbox and sorting out a few other issues. It was in pretty sad condition. I haven't made a movie for a while because I've really just been too busy to stop. But this thing about the air idle mixture screw, there's a thread going on the BMW Airhead or Airhead BMW Riders Group page about that, and I was trying to sort of type a response to it, and in the end I just thought I'd give up and I would try and explain how the fuel circuit in this carby works, and that might help explain why the air idle mixture circuit is actually quite the most important thing you can do for the smooth running of a Bing. So when these carbies are made, the body is cast to be either left or right handed, and that plate there covers the side that isn't in use and drilled for the choke. This carby is one of 4 that came to me out of Western Australia to be reconditioned, and the second pair were fairly rough. The first pair were good. We're nearly finished, but we're just waiting on some bits and pieces to come. Now when they drill these carbies for a particular side, if you look around them you can see that there are scroll rivets, they're called, those little bungs that you can see there, and you'll see them everywhere really. There's another one there. Now what they're for is you can only drill in a straight line, you can't drill around a corner. So if you want to get around a corner, you've got to make the casting in such a way that sorry, that's the shim calculations for the gearbox getting in the road there. This desk's a mess, but I'm halfway through a job. And those little scroll rivets are used to close off the drilling holes once the carby's been drilled to the right place. So when you look at the intake side of the carby, you'll see that there are 3 basic holes in there. The one in the middle, now it does nothing else but draw air down through that hole into the main jet chamber, which is poking the main jet, and the end of the needle jet are poking through into the throat of the carby there. There's an atomizer and the needle jet in the middle, and the slide goes in from the top down into there, you see. So the carby's got the slide out of it, and it's also got the throttle butterfly shaft out of it because they stripped the screws when they took it apart. So that goes down there and a blast of air hits the fuel coming up like a fly spray up through that jet. There are holes in the atomizer jet in the back in the main jet chamber, and it swirls the air around and breaks the fuel down into small droplets, which hit through the air, through the butterfly, into the engine, combust. These 2 holes here, one of them is not drilled, and that's because depending on which side the carby is going on, they get drilled to that side. So this one here would be a left-hand side carburetor. There's the hole that they've drilled, and they put a brass restrictor ferrule in it because they can't drill a hole that small down the length they have to, so they drill it bigger and then restrict it. And if you look here, you can see there's the centre, there's the one that's drilled, and if you look you can see in between there, you can see that tube going all the way down to this idle jet here. It's got a hole in the bottom, and it's got a whole bunch of emulsifying holes on the other end of that jet, little holes drilled around the jet. And if you look to go around the corner, that's where that scroll rivet is taking you. It drills up into that chamber there, right, and then it drills out into this central chamber here, right. Sorry, I just realised there's no Welch plug in that, so we'll have to find one of those, which is good. So it goes in there. Now out of there, that's like air central, right? So the air comes, you can see the little jet there, the little casting there that's drilled through, and there's the scroll rivet for it there, and then it comes across here to the air idle mixture screw, and there's the scroll rivet for that drilling there. So it comes in through here, right, through the main jet chamber. It draws a blast of air into that chamber, swirls it, atomizes it through there out to here. That is the air idle mixture screw. And another interesting thing which you may or may not know, I don't know if I can get it in the shot. But right there where you can see the ring in about the middle of the photo, there's two tiny little holes in the carburetor there. I'm trying my best to get them. You can actually see the vacuum port screw on one side, and just to the left and below that there should be two little staggered holes there. They are also on this line. Now, why this is so important, I had one supposed expert try to tell me one day that made no difference and that it was redundant once the carby was running. Well, that's not true, because this circuit is always open and it never closes off. There's no mechanism for closing it off. So what happens is when you start your engine, you've got your butterfly cracked slightly, and this here allows fuel to come out of the idle chamber through there and come out in the throat. There you can see the hole now, right where my finger is. So it's bypassing the butterfly altogether, so you can make that engine run even if the butterfly's shut. It won't run beautifully, but it will run because the air is bypassing and fuel is bypassing the butterfly completely. Now, the purpose of those two little holes I tried to show you, they're stepped one behind the other off diagonals, so that as you open the butterfly you expose those two holes to drafts of air, and they start pulling a small amount of fuel straight out of the same line that's on the air idle mixture screw and throwing it up underneath the butterfly, so that it compensates for the extra air that's coming in when you open the butterfly before the rush of air going over the main jet picks it up and takes it into the engine. So in a real sense, that system acts like a compensating jet in an automotive carburetor. And when the butterfly is operating and the engine is running constantly at say 4,000 RPM, there is a constant stream of fuel being pulled out of these things here by just the rush of air going down through the carburetor. So there's an amount of fuel coming out of there which combined with the fuel coming past the main jet and into the engine gives you the total amount of fuel going into any particular cylinder for combustion at any given time. It never shuts off. There is no mechanism to shut it off. So, why is it so important? Well, because this here is on the end of a line which starts with a hole pulling air from before the butterfly down past a thing that is submersed in fuel and drawing fuel up into that circuit and out here to allow the engine to run at idle. It's actually, when you call it an air idle mixture screw, it pulls a combination of air and fuel together, mixed by the little spiraling of air around the little holes in the end of that idle jet into your engine. Now when you open the throttle, if you get the bike idling perfectly hot on that screw alone, there's a very good chance that it will be running lean. When you open the throttle butterfly, it will be not enough opening in here to create a proper fuel flow past those two little holes, which that's designed to work almost like an accelerator pump. It throws the fuel up underneath the butterfly so that the engine doesn't stumble. So if you're stumbling when you just lift the engine off idle, open that up, turn it anti-clockwise slightly until the stumble goes away. When you get it to run perfectly just off idle on the throttle on both sides, there's a very good chance that if you snap the throttle open, the engine will pick up instantly and rev instantly, and if it doesn't, open that screw one little tiny click more, and you'll find that if your carbies are done properly, it will. As for the harmonizer, I can't remember the exact instructions now, but I've used one. They're very, very excellent machines, and they are designed so, I can't remember the sequence, but it's written clearly on the instructions on the harmonizer itself how to do it. You use one particular line, you measure the mercury height, you put it into a mode where it's measuring the height of mercury, theoretically, because it's doing it electronically, and you use that same line on each carby. So you blank off one of the lines and you turn that air idle mixture screw in until, and I can't remember the number, but I think it's 5 or 6 millimeters on the scale. And believe me, with a harmonizer, if you do that and get them both the same, you'll find that you won't have a stumble and you won't have a stutter. I'm sorry if this is a bit wordy, but I just can't think of any other way to do it. Ride safely, stay well, have a great day.